So I just want to really emphasize this, that the Amazon marketplace is it's a marketplace. Okay, so what the basic factors of it are that it's supply and demand. And so in this video, we're going to talk about how you could increase your odds. Like, let's say you haven't chosen a niche yet. This may help give you some ideas of where the best opportunities are on Amazon. And where the best opportunities are, in my opinion, are where there is more demand than there's supply, or there's no innovation in the market. So we're going to go over some ones that I've just thought of off the top of my head. This is not an exhaustive list, obviously, but hopefully it gets some ideas spurring. So basically, think about this. For the entirety of history, all products have been created with retail in mind, because that was the entire distribution and supply chain. There wasn't a way other than mom and pop shops to get at the individual consumer with something that did basically, if you ever look at packaging, you ever wonder, like, why is there so much wasted space? What has to fit on a retail shelf, okay, and whatnot. So what I like to do is think about, what would a retailer not do? So I was doing retail arbitrage, and I've sold over 5,000 different SKUs in my life, and I got to see all this different stuff. But what I learned from going into all these stores over and over is they don't serve every market, okay? They have to hit all their distribution chains. Like, let's say there's all these Walmarts. If they're going to put something on the shelf of every Walmart, they're not necessarily niching down and just putting stuff in one Walmart. Maybe now they are a little bit, but it has to move volume, and it has to be acceptable to society, because everybody's going to walk in that store, and something that may offend somebody else can't be in there, particularly. So you got to think, who's going to be the retail buyer, and what types of items would they sell? So ways that I would think about it, let's just take, for example, taboo products. Obviously this works at a store like Spencer's, but there's not a lot of Spencer's. So I actually like to look at Spencer's, because there's all sorts of, that's kind of culture right there. The younger people, and they sell like meme stuff and all sorts of cool different items, and there's demand for those, but they're not stocked historically. So there's all these markets that only can really exist on e-commerce and Amazon. So that's where I would be going, because there's not big long-term established brands like there are in retail. So for example, just beauty products. Just think of anything that you would go and buy at Walmart. You probably don't want to go into those. You might, there's certain ones, but go where there's not these big entrenched brands, and where, stuff that wouldn't existed. Like, for example, bundles. You don't really see bundles at Walmart or any retail stores. So you can add value. It's kind of based on you, the consumer, to go and get all the things together. Maybe they'll put this, these retail, put all these different retail displays up so that you could go and make your own bundle yourself, but that stuff just doesn't exist. Or, specific niche markets like we were talking about earlier, they're just not making that kind of stuff, because it may only work for a certain segment of the niche, and they have limited floor space. So that's where I would be going. And then, so there's types of products that retail wouldn't sell. But then what about this? So think about underserved ethnicities and ages, okay? I can tell you from my personal experience that the people that watch my YouTube channel, and typically the people in these Facebook groups for Amazon FBA, they're about 20 to 50-year-old white and Asian men. That is, there are obviously exceptions, but think about women, LGBT, African Americans, other ethnicities. My friends from Ethiopia, and he's saying that a lot of the Ethiopian people are looking for specific products, and they don't even exist. They're having to do these backdoor shops and flea markets to go and sell stuff to their community. So there's just a lot of underserved markets, because we typically try to sell to people like us and whatnot. But that is where we know the best, especially elderly people. They've got a lot of money and they need a lot of help. It's the fastest growing age segment. So there's definitely a lot of money to be made in that too. So now think about this, business to business. It's not sexy, but businesses have so much money. And I know that when we had ran a manufacturing plant in my house, I was buying stuff all the time. And that is a very underserved market. I can tell you that's probably one of the most wide open, because they do not leave reviews. it's some employee buying it or someone like they don't have time to go leave a review, and they'll oftentimes repurchase. So there's that. That whole B2B place is very underserved, and Amazon is trying to push it really hard. Then governments, that. I mean, I sold a lot to governments with the Eclipse glasses, and they're not spending their dollars. Okay, they just need to solve this problem. Buy it. I would sell ink to these governments all the time. When I was getting Radio Shack, I would get these inks and toners and all sorts of stuff, and they just don't care about price. It's just someone who's a lower level, and they're just buying. So. You can, and not many people are really catering to these niches, so you can go in and get a competitive advantage. Now, then yet again, seasonal. A lot of people aren't going after it. It's harder to track. There's just not as much innovation in there. So anywhere where there's, not as sexy of markets, there's going to be more opportunity. And then obviously the last one would be new markets, but this is dangerous. You don't want to get stuck in a fad, but if you get in a mega trend, so not just a fad like a fidget spinner, but you go into a big growing trend that has legs and has passionate people, not just a fidget spinner. It was everybody. It was a fad. Okay. But like let's say you're going in a specific niche of health, like CrossFitters, you're going into paleo, keto, stuff like that. That's a long growing trend, and it's going to continue to go. There's a whole community and whatnot. You could really build out niches within those. Now, they're not as new, but there's always new trends coming up, and so you can build out your niche within those. So just start to think about these different places where there's not entrenched brands, retail wasn't in. I mean, these are obviously, don't follow these rules. These are just ideas to get the brain cells and, the juices going. So I hope that this helps provide some insight to a certain extent. And the more barriers to entry. So if you haven't watched the barriers to entry video yet, I suggest you guys go watch that one, because the more barriers to entry, or essentially, at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. All right. Where can we find where there is more demand than supply, and then innovate within there? And I think that is a good mental model to think about going with this. So hope that this is helpful, and on to the next one.